Hello, it's Dale here. Today I'm going to talk about one of my favourite materials that I like to work on, which I've been working on for well over 20 years, and this is Romeo. Romeo is a very heavy 80 microns water soluble fabric, which isn't like one that you might just run under the tap, because it doesn't work that way. It's a slow dissolving water soluble, and it usually looks about like this. I have got bits and pieces that have been lying around. You know, when they always say these things like you should put them in a dark corner in a bag. Well, this piece here I just found on the floor, and it'll still work, so it's crispy. I'm just showing you what happens if it's left out in the open forever. And it looks like it's got probably a bit of water on or something like that. But the point is, I can put that on my sewing machine and stitch on it and then wash it away, so it doesn't break down at all. But you put it into warm water or cool water, but you leave it, so you can't be in a hurry when you do things like this. This is sort of sample of, I've used it for lots and lots of stuff, but this is just straight stitching on it. So with free stitching and shapes, and you can stitch with your dogs up or your dogs down. You can stitch letters and shapes, anything really. And for instance, if you just have a look here, you'll see this is a lacy piece that's been stitched, and it's got velvet in and bits of fabric and all sorts of things in a heart sort of theme. But what I have also been doing with it is I've painted on it. So I've used if you can see this, I've used a stamp, a wooden printing block, and some silver metallic thread, and I painted on it. Now, if you wet pretty well, or especially the fabric type of water solubles, they will disintegrate on you. Now, I've said many years ago to people, you can spill your wine on this and you just wipe it and carry on. It doesn't make holes, and if by any chance it does make a little hole, it doesn't matter. It's so firm that it will hold its own. So I've simply painted on that and left it. Now, the reason is some of the paint may lift, but it's there to give you a guide. So this one here is almost the same, and I've stitched on it. So that's the same stamp. I stitched on it, and when I finished stitching, I cut all the surplus off from around the edge, because otherwise you're just doubling up what you put in the water to soak. And all these little pieces I would keep together, and you can join them up between two layers of baking paper. So you just cut them all and lay them all down together and overlap them, and they will become another piece which you can continue to use. So it's a very good waste not, want not product. But it might seem, you might think, well, why would you bother? Why don't you just stamp onto the felt? Now, this is a pre-felt that I've used a couple. It's a really, really old one I have that was very thin when we got it. So these were the first ones we got. You can see how thin it is. And by running it under the embellishing machine and adding to it, joining it up, you can make it into quite a sturdy fabric, or weave, or whatever you do. So I sort of keep these old things. So there's two there. Now, if I just sit straight onto it, those metallic threads would have sunk into the bottom. And the thing about a soluble that you put on the top means it gives that raise on the pile, especially if you're working on something like velvet. And I know from past that if I just stamp an image straight onto my felt, it disappears. So this is here, that's as a guide. You can see some of the metallic paint has stayed. Some of it does roll away a little bit, but it's pretty good. And so it's just a little piece that I wanted to play with. So that's that thing. That's one thing that you can do with it. And the other, of course, is to print on it. So here, that's the image I did, a little image from when we were in Marrakesh. Now, then I have printed it out onto Romeo. Now, these have been around for quite some time, and they're still pretty firm. Now, you won't get that whole image when you put it back on, or if you put it onto your surface and stitch out the outline and perhaps even colour in with wax crayons, or use all thread. It's there as a particular guide, and it gives you another a different sort of image result. So that's a real one that I've done an image transfer with, and this is the one on the Romeo. and you also you can leave bits out or add bits in. As I said, you could fill it all in that way. So that's that. And this is another little one that I did yesterday. This is an image that I have when I was on my holiday at the beach. I've changed it to black and white, and then I printed it just to show you how I work. Now it's a bit wet at the bottom because I put the bit of felt on while it was drying after I wet it. So of course, but you can see how it hasn't totally disappeared. It's still there, and it'll dry up and be quite capable to use, but that had wet felt sitting on it. When I printed it, I have taped it down the sides of a piece of print paper. You can do it onto freezer paper, but I quite like that way. And I've got a little bit of extra ink that came out, but it doesn't matter, it'll wash away. So I can use that and stitch as much or as little as I want to when I'm working on the image. That's the original big one. And I thought just before I left, I'd show you what happens when you have a problem. My printer, like anything, you know, when you're about to demonstrate or you're doing any teaching, will go wrong. So obviously the first one I printed out on paper to see how it went had all these massive lines in it. Then I cleaned the heads and it got marginally better. But then I thought I'd try it on here. So here it is on my poor piece of Romeo. It was still with the lines. So the manual was useless, so I had to actually, I don't read instructions very well, so I had to go out and work out how to clean it. And this was the result, nice and clean. So at least I've done something constructive there. Now this is Romeo. Lots and lots of things I can show you about it. One of the things we're really excited about is we've had an order in since August. It's been at the wharf for a couple of weeks, but I believe it's going to be delivered tomorrow or maybe Tuesday. But anyway, we'll soon have lots of Romeo in stock, and you can do all sorts of things, which I will be pleased to keep showing you. It's one of my favourite fabrics for working with. So I hope that's been a little useful. Don't forget that I'm Dale Rollison, and I'm from thethreadstudio.com, and I'll see you again next time. Bye.